My name is Virabhadra. I got into Krishna consciousness when I was 17. I got some books and then started reading them. And I was reading lots of other books about yoga and meditation and different religions and stuff. And then this just really appealed to my heart. So then I started trying to practice some bits of the books. And over time I started going to the temples more often and then made friends there. And then I eventually became a monk. And I lived as a monk in the Hare Krishna temple for about 3 years in Cape Town and London. And I recently moved out and married. This is my wife, Lord. And I'm now planning to study a 3-year degree in English and then hopefully go to become a teacher and that kind of thing.
My name is Radhika. I'm an Ayurvedic medicine student. I've been a Hare Krishna devotee all my life. My parents were devotees, so I've been going to the temples, and I went to Vrindavan a couple of years ago with my sister, and we went for a pilgrimage time, and we were going to see different holy places in Vrindavan, visiting the different temples, learning lots of things, and it was really inspired me to do more Krishna consciousness. And I had the most amazing time of my life there. It was a really good experience.
So my name is John Gould. I'm an actor, and I've been acting since I was 12 years old. So I've done some international tours. I've worked in the West End Theatre. I've done some national tours, I've done some physical theatre, I've worked at film studios. I've done some commercials. A lot of short films, some independent feature films, like that. So, for the past sort of 5-6 years, I've been working as a professional actor.
My name is Vrindavan Das, and so I've been spending most of my time as a young child exploring different faiths, and I came across Krishna consciousness, and Krishna consciousness just seemed to have the answers to all of those questions that were deeply burning inside me that I wanted to have answered.
I remember being on the stage professionally and just having a look around the people that I was working with and talking to them, and talking to a lot of the other professionals that I was working with at the time, asking them about their experiences. And one thing that struck me was they said, it's brilliant, professional work is fantastic, it's a lot of fun. And these are intelligent people who really appreciate what they have, they appreciate that they're lucky to be where they are. They count themselves as fortunate people, but something that they were saying commonly amongst all of them was that it wasn't bringing the satisfaction they were looking for, despite being a star in the West End for 10 years or 14 years, or now, being professional and in their 60s, having a lot of experience. They said, oh, it won't make you happy. So I was like, all right, okay. So that intrigued me, I guess. So a combination of those things, I was thinking, oh, is there more than this? I decided to make a conscious effort to be involved with monastic life. The reason I wanted to do that was to experience what it would be like as a test, almost like a scientific test. Okay, so I've experienced what it's like to be an actor. I've gone to rehearsals. I've auditioned, I've trained. I've tried that experience, and this is the result. Okay, it's fulfilling, it's to a certain degree, it's exciting, I love it. But now let's give this a try, because I'm intrigued by this. Something about this is intriguing me. Something is gripping me internally, and something logically makes sense about this. So let's put it to the test. So that's why I gave India a go.
When I was a monk, I actually went to Vrindavan for 5 weeks with a few friends that were living in the temple at that time as well. And yeah, we had a nice experience. We went with a big group of Hare Krishna devotees, and there was about 7,000 or something. And we were part of that group for a while, and then my friends went back and I stayed on and went to stay at a temple where my guru, who I've kind of received teachings from, where he stays. So I went and stayed with him for about 10 days, and then he showed me around Vrindavan, different areas near Vrindavan, which are also pilgrimage places and stuff.
Well, ever since I can remember, I've always wanted to go to Vrindavan. But as airfare is quite expensive to go to India, I finally saved up a couple of years ago and managed to go. And when I got there, the first thing that hit me was the heat. It's so hot. And so, like, at the time I was amazed just by the scenery, the heatness. But if you just forget all about that and just enjoy seeing the different temples, and you're waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning by temple bells, where else do you get that? And it's just a very spiritual place to be. You just feel inside of you so good being there, and inspired to do more like spirituality and learning different things. And it's just, I just feel at home being there.
Yeah, so I guess my memories of India, Vrindavan in particular, and my experience first started on the train to Vrindavan. Going on sleeper class is all part of the fun. Although my body was suffering a little bit, I must admit I was finding that really tough. Being, a pampered Western young lad, going to an austere country, it was a big culture shock, and my body was suffering. I had dysentery. It was really quite tough, but it was a lot of fun. India's a lot of fun. Going in the taxis, the rickshaw taxis, going to visit different temples, being with friends who are also interested in knowing more about themselves, the world around them, Krishna consciousness in particular, is a lot of fun. But really my first experience kind of happened on the train, I guess. I remember waking up after having a dream, and I hadn't seen Vrindavan ever, but in this dream I could see fields, like the most beautiful and mysterious fields that I'd ever seen before. I didn't know what to expect from Vrindavan really. I'd only read certain things in books, but I'd never read any intimate details of anything like that, of the nature or anything like that. But yeah, that night I had a quite significant dream before entering into Vrindavan of seeing fields, which are really, really very neat and nice. So that was my first experience of Vrindavan, in one sense, before going into Vrindavan physically. So I was intrigued, I guess. But Vrindavan itself was really tough. It wasn't like I saw in my dream. It wasn't like I saw in my dream. Open sewers, cows running around in the roads. You have to be careful of your money. Keep your money safe. Heard stories of people breaking into people's rooms, things like that. Monkeys jumping around everywhere. You're in a strange environment. You don't know where you are. So it was a shock.
There's a lot to take in, really. It's quite overwhelming. Culturally, very overwhelming. And spiritually overwhelming. You've got the Yamuna on the left, and there's a lot of people begging at the same time, so it's a real contrast. You know?
So it was really tough. I was ill as well. The accommodation is you know, is how can I say? You know, something to get used to, perhaps. But you start to realise that all of this is part of it, actually. And Vrindavan sort of starts to come alive, I think, through that medium of austerity, in a way. That you have to sort of come to realise you have to appreciate where you are and appreciate what you have. Otherwise you just won't get on. You won't be able to get through the next day if you don't learn to appreciate what you have, who you're with, the food that you have, the shelter that you do have, all of those things. So for me, that's where Vrindavan started to come into play, was through those teachings, through the austerity.
मोहन ने दिखाने को मोहन खड़े खड़े मार लगो आएगा फोटो आ गया
And I was probably only about 7 or 8 years old when I went to Vrindavan for the very first time. But I specifically remember when I was younger, when we were travelling out of Vrindavan, you know, it felt like it was a very sad moment. I didn't want to leave because there was something there. I couldn't put my finger on what. There's some spiritual energy, this enthusiasm of just being in this holy place. And as we were coming back in the car, I looked out of the window and I saw this beautiful marble temple. Well, I didn't know what it was marble. I just saw it was a beautiful temple with made out of white stone, which had all of these carvings and engravings and everything about it. And I looked at it, and it was just fascinating. I just thought, wow, there is something about this temple. And I wasn't actually a Hare Krishna devotee at that time, but there was just something about that temple which I was just really drawn to, something that was just calling me there again and again. And years later, I mean, I started, going to the Hare Krishna temple here when I was very, very young. Bhaktivedanta Manor and ISKCON Soho temple when I was very, very young. And years later, I learned that was actually the Hare Krishna temple, ISKCON temple in Vrindavan. And then, I had this new determination inside me that next time I go to Vrindavan, I'm going to go and visit that temple. Because there was something magical about that place. And the first time I went to ISKCON Vrindavan, I just was so overwhelmed by the beauty of the devotees, the mood of Vrindavan, which was service and love and devotion to Krishna.
I was already practicing Krishna consciousness. I was already chanting. I was getting an experience, perhaps you could say a taste, for spiritual life in that way. I was feeling the effects or the result of chanting and seeing the difference in my life. One example of that is simply when I started chanting, I remember my room feeling the real need to cleanse and to just get rid of any rubbish that was in my room at all. Just cleanse it, just get rid of it, put plants in, make it more natural, just to really cleanse my immediate environment. I just felt an urge to want to get rid of stuff that was clinging onto my room. So I could feel an immediate effect from chanting. Not only that, but a deeper experience from chanting. A devotee who was on the street, I met him in Woking, and he was a devotee, so he was already a person who was practicing Krishna consciousness, someone who was putting the philosophy to the test, basically. And I met him on the street, he gave me a book, and he called me up a few weeks later and said, "Have you tried chanting?"
Krishna is God, as we understand him. So God is all-powerful, he can appear in anything and in any way. And Krishna, or God, Krishna's name, it has the same power as him himself. They're one. They're not different, actually. So when you say Krishna and the person Krishna, they're the same thing. But in material senses, when I say like water and the actual substance of water, it's different things. I don't get my thirst quenched when I just say water. But when you say Krishna, you can actually associate with him, you can actually come closer to him. And that's actually what devotees are doing. They're actually calling out his name to kind of call him to kind of bring you towards him. And in Vrindavan, you'll see this everywhere practically, like constantly people will be chanting. There's some people that will, they'll chant maybe about 16 hours out of one day. They'll chant for like 16 hours constantly, they may break up into like 8 hours, but that's still they dedicate so much of their lives just to calling for God. And this is actually like their full-time occupation. So we'll go to like some job wherever, which we have to do. But they're on such a kind of high level, they're not interested in anything else anymore, they just want Krishna. And they'll spend their whole day just calling for Krishna, like, please, just take me.
So he introduced this chanting to me. And I'd read a little bit about it, but to be honest, at first it didn't really make sense to me at the time. I couldn't relate to it. I was a young Western towny guy, into women, drink. I was interested in philosophy and spirituality, but still I couldn't quite relate to it. So it was difficult for me to digest, but he encouraged me. He said, try the chanting. So I was in my room and I tried the chanting. And from that chanting, I literally felt an energy sweep through my body. And from that, I basically burst into tears. I was crying for a good 10 minutes, with an understanding that I was suffering and the world was suffering. And then straight after that, I burst out into laughter. Uncontrollable laughter, which it was emotion which is beyond any emotion that I've felt before, beyond emotion that I've ever felt with any girl. and they're okay relationships. Not that they were bad relationships, but, they're good relationships. But this emotion was emotion that was beyond any type of emotion that I felt before. Uncontrollable laughter, uncontrollable tears. yeah, uh, for about another 10 minutes. And so I've been having logical, tangible experiences.
Yeah, so in Vrindavan you'll see this everywhere. You'll see some devotees will have like a bead bag and beads which they count with, and that's actually all it is. It's just to count, and they'll count how many times they're chanting for Krishna. So it's kind of, it has numerical strength as well. They'll be like, Krishna, I'm gonna call for you for 8 hours a day, which will be a certain amount of rounds around the beads. So they'll be like, I'm going to do this every day for you to like show you that I'm serious, that I want you. So some devotees will be like that, and then but all devotees will also engage in what's called sankirtan. Sang means like a sangha, or communion, like a group. And they'll usually get together and play with instruments as well, like in Vrindavan, which is an Indian drum and kartals, small cymbals. And the music is there to kind of aid the chanting, and to kind of, because when there's rhythm, naturally kind of your mind relaxes into it, and you can kind of, and if there's melody, it kind of, your mind is pleased. I know it sounds kind of mundane, but it's, your mind becomes pleased with music, and so this kind of, it makes the mind a bit easier to kind of, like, see, it's nice, just listen to the holy name, listen to Krishna's name. And in Vrindavan there's like places where they'll be doing this 24 hours a day, 24/7, all the time. They'll be doing this sankirtan, they'll be playing with instruments and chanting for years on end without stopping. There'll be like, obviously people changing over and stuff, but so it has a huge significance actually. It's kind of, that is the focus of Vrindavan, that's what you go there to do, is really chant and actually call for Krishna.
actually, what I was looking for at the root of things was, just cut straight to the point, was that I wanted to know who God was. And I had, up until that point, up until the West End, when I was there, I had an understanding that we were all connected by one energy, quite a sort of a Buddhist understanding, of philosophy. But I wanted to know what the source was, what, who God was, and so that intrigued me. I wanted to know what the cause of life was.
And one of the most wonderful things about Krishna consciousness that really impressed me is that God is not just, a man. He is also a female. He is Radha and Krishna. Although he is the original personality of Godhead is Krishna, he also has a female form which is known as Radharani, and she's also Krishna, but she's female Krishna, and she takes the mood of being a devotee of Krishna. So this was really very, wonderful for me, because people used to always say that, God is a man, and people have this attitude and think, why is he not a female, But here, in spiritual tradition of, thousands and thousands of years old in India, you find that actually Krishna, he's a supreme person, and his energy is female, and that's known as Srimati Radharani.
So Krishna was born in Vrindavan, and for us, Krishna is in every part and everything. Like, he's in the trees, he's in the animals, he's in the human beings, he's in the stone, everywhere. So at home we also have like a deity in which Krishna is inside there, so we worship Krishna. So as you can see, our deity of Krishna, the black deity, and his consort is Radhika, who's on that side, and she's his eternal consort with Dhama. And so my name Radhika I'm named after her. So she's like our supreme mother, and Krishna is our supreme father. And you'll see a lot of these deities in Vrindavan. There's about 5,000 temples dedicated to these two deities. So Vrindavan is a very special place to go for pilgrimage, to see the different deities in the holy places. So it's a very important place for us.
I think the main interesting thing about Vrindavan is the amount of other devotees that go there. I think that's one of the big things that attracts people from all over the world. It's kind of almost like a catch-22 that people from all over the world go there because people from all over the world, or devotees from all over the world are going there. So it's kind of a cyclical thing.
Prabhupada used the word helmet. Indian लोगों को helmet ऐसा समझ में आता है, helmet. And it's only as Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj was saying, coming from America, he said, when he read Prabhupada's purports first, and he read the word Lord Krishna, he had in front of him someone with a black coat, a British hat, a cane in his hand, and a cigar in his mouth, like Lord Macaulay, like Lord Macaulay, or like some British lord. I want the association of your devotees. He's standing in front of Krishna, and what is Utkanta? His Utkanta is, I want to be with devotees.
The devotees there are kind of the real attraction, because when they're speaking about Krishna, for me, when I went and I got to spend time with my teacher there, and that was something that really kind of changed my life forever. It was really special for me, because you get to see someone who's been kind of devoting their life to God for so long, and they've gone so deep into their relationship with God, and then to be with them and just kind of see how they live is quite special, because it's kind of, they're just not interested in the things of this world in one sense. I mean, they're just like you and me in one sense, but in another sense they've got a very deep side to them, which is kind of, when you're in Vrindavan with them, or with any kind of advanced saint or spiritual person, you get to kind of experience this life that we can all taste, that kind of, that higher taste, I guess you could say.
Rest assured, for sure, Krishna can help us let the flight of our consciousness take off. And as the flight goes higher and higher, all the buildings become smaller and smaller. They exist. They exist. But for a person, as he takes off and goes higher in the plane, the buildings become trivial. As the flight of our consciousness goes higher and higher in Krishna and Balaram's pastime, all what's happening around us becomes insignificant and trivial. Just because one becomes Krishna conscious, Dukkhalaya doesn't become Sukhalaya. The problems remain the same. All we can do is slowly go up, take off in the flight of our consciousness, and entering into the beautiful forest woods of Vrindavan.
When I went for a parikrama, which means pilgrimage to see the holy places, all my friends from around the world were there. So there were people from America, from Australia, from Europe, from Africa, everywhere, just coming to be there. So everybody was going to see these holy places, and at each temple, there'd be a brief history about the temple and why was it important. So you do learn quite a lot when going to see these holy places, and everybody's just so happy to be there. And then we tell our friends, come next year, because we'll all be there. And more people come, and it's just like a big festival happening, and everybody's so happy, so joyful. It's just amazing to see all these people, these devotees of Krishna, being there together.
Vrindavan started to become alive as well through seeing the festivals. Feeding 4,000 people. Just amazing. With 7 or so preparations. I mean, I've never seen anything like that before in my life, ever. Such kindness, and such effort and thought gone into just feeding thousands of people. And engineers designing the tracks for the huge pots to go onto to cook the rice, and putting them along these huge tracks, and seeing that and seeing the spectacle of it all, incredible, absolutely incredible. Bhadna Swami telling the pastimes of Krishna, and the pastimes in Vrindavan. So hearing about Vrindavan, in Vrindavan, incredibly special. There's a sense there that this was once a very opulent place, although it's not at this time being. There is that sense there. And I don't think that's something that you'll be able to understand until you go there. And other things there which are just beyond comprehension. Some of the temples claim they have self-manifesting deities there. Blows your mind. Some of these deities thousands and thousands of years old. Buildings that are thousands of years old. It challenges a lot of history. It challenges the way that we see the world. Beautiful temple, Krishna Balaram temple. And so going into Srila Prabhupada's rooms where he disappeared from his body was an amazing experience. They say that in that room there is still a certain focused amount of energy in that particular room, because it's the place where a great soul, a Mahatma, disappeared, left his body. And I can vouch for that. By being in there and chanting in those rooms and meditating in those rooms, they have a profound internal effect on you, which is undeniable.
yeah, so to get kind of beyond this external vision of Vrindavan and get into this sweetness, that's actually what Krishna consciousness is about. Because Vrindavan, like I said, it's a place within you as well. It's something which you can attain inside. So you can find Vrindavan in London or in New York or wherever you are. You can find this Vrindavan because it's actually in us. And the way to find that is actually through chanting and through reading scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and stuff, which is one of the main texts for Hare Krishna devotees and all Vaishnavas and stuff. So, yeah, through actually kind of going into hearing about Krishna. Because it's like, if I want to get to know somebody, if I want to get to know the president or whatever, or any historical person, I start to hear about them, I'll read a book or something. And first of all, I'll learn their name, you know what I mean? Like, you find out more and more about them, who they hang out with, or who they're married to, who their children are, etc. So in the same way, when you want to find out about God, you do the same thing. You hear these things from Srimad Bhagavatam and other books. You can actually hear about who God is, what's his name, who he hangs around with, where he lives, and stuff like this. So actually, when you start to hear this, and you hear that he lives in Vrindavan, and this is what Vrindavan is like, when you're there, you can really start to meditate more. It's got a very powerful kind of impact on how you can actually meditate on Vrindavan. You can actually start to think, wow, actually, yeah, Krishna, he tends to cows. He's a cowherd. Well, that's actually what God does for a living. So in Vrindavan, you start to actually feel that, well, yeah, this is actually so nice. It's such a nice way to live. Why wouldn't God be doing the nicest thing? So, yeah, through hearing and through chanting, when you want to call someone to you, you call their name. So in the same way, when you want to call Krishna, you call Hare Krishna, you call his name. And by doing that, you actually start to develop a relationship, and you start to go to Vrindavan, really go to Vrindavan. And, yeah.
We did what's called a parikrama. A parikrama is like a pilgrim, a small pilgrim. And we walked around a hill called Govardhan Hill, which is like a holy place, a holy hill. It's said to be the place the hill that Krishna lifted with his little finger. So it's a pastime. And so we it was called circumambulating the hill.
You can see on your right side very beautiful Govardhan mountain, and just under the sun you can see there are four cows. These are rare breed of cows called as Nilgai. They are blue colored cows who live in the forest. They do not come near human beings. They are very rare, but they are integral part of the Braj culture. Hare Krishna.
Now there was a point where we were on top of the hill and we entered a town, and it was so packed. It was so packed. You couldn't move forwards, you couldn't move back, you couldn't move sideways, you couldn't move up, you couldn't even crouch down if you want. You could not move. Now, I was getting frustrated. You know, I was like, I just want to get out. I just want to get out. I want to. What do I do? Do I move this way? Do I move that way? Do I try and find somewhere against a wall somewhere to try and move to? What do I do? And the reason it was so packed is because everyone was trying to fit into this very narrow door or pathway. And I realised that I had no other option but to give up where I was and say, okay, there's nothing I can do here. Either I get completely frustrated and have a fit or something, or I just let go and just say, well, accept the fact that I'm here. So, what happens in Vrindavan, what I mean by internally, is the consciousness. It's the consciousness. It's not what's happening externally. What happened there, what's happening in Vrindavan is a change in your consciousness. You're almost forced, in a way, to change your consciousness, to change your perspective on things. Vrindavan is really a state of consciousness, which you kind of develop or realise in little drops. And for me, that was just one example, but there's many.
one really famous story or pastime of Krishna is when he's a little boy, when his mother is making butter. And Krishna loves butter so much, he goes into different households and steals butter. But actually he's not stealing it because he's such a bad person. Like the gopis or the ladies of Vrindavan, they actually love Krishna so much that they wanted to give him everything. So there's one particularly funny story where he goes and he steals butter from his mother. And his mother's chasing him with a wooden stick, and she ties him onto a big mortar, like a wooden thing. And Krishna's a little bit upset, so he's dragging this mortar through 2 trees. And out from the trees spring 2 beautiful people who are actually demigods. And they're very like heavenly people. And so they were cursed to become trees. Now Krishna, by just going through them and breaking the 2 trees, he liberated them. So we have a particular special month in November time, and this whole month is dedicated to praying to Krishna as this little boy. And in Vrindavan, people would like tiny little lamps and offer to Krishna at that time, and everybody's really happy and singing to Krishna all the time. It's just such a nice festival feeling in this particular month.
In this month of Dhama, it's called, November time, lots of devotees will go to Vrindavan and they'll offer lamps. And I remember in one temple it was quite a nice scene, because there's the main altar up at the front of the temple, and then to get to that part there's some steps, and it's about 10 meters depth towards the altars, and then there's like this raised platform and steps, and then a large temple area to kind of house all the devotees that have come. And so in this month, all of these devotees will walk up in a big line up these steps, and to these different kind of manifestations of Krishna, they'll offer a lamp, and this lamp is basically a symbol of their love. They're going there to offer, like, this is my love. And in that month they'll also kind of try and chant more, they'll try and pray more, etc. And but there was such a nice scene. It was just like a river of lamps, just like flowing up and coming down again in this big circle, going up and offering. It was just like a circle of love just being offered to Krishna in this big river of lamps. It was quite amazing. So it's quite a nice scene.
You get people coming from Africa, you get people coming from Russia, you get people coming from Europe, you get people coming from America. This is all down to the wonderful mercy of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He understood that Vrindavan is just not a place for Indians. He understood that this place is for everyone, because Vrindavan is not actually a material place on the map, even though geographically it's there for people to come and visit. But it's a place of consciousness, it's a place of spiritual consciousness, where people can come and actually awaken their dormant love for Shri Krishna and for Srimati Radharani. And Srila Prabhupada is a representative of Krishna, and he is representing a whole lineage of spiritual masters who have the mood that actually Krishna or God or love of Godhead is for everybody. It is not for any one particular caste, it's not for one particular religion, it's not for one particular race of people. It is for everybody, because everybody is a spirit soul. Nobody is this material body. This material body is just an external covering, and the nature of the spirit soul is to love and to serve. And this is the mood of Vrindavan, is to learn to love and serve. And this is why all of these people from all over the world are coming and taking up this spiritual practice, and especially in the month of Kartik, which is considered to be a holy pilgrimage time for all of these people. Even a Westerner who doesn't have an Indian background, they are open and exposed to a spiritual reality which goes beyond the physical. It goes on to the spiritual. It takes people to the spiritual. So that lamp that all these people are offering, they're offering it in the spirit of love and devotion. And why a lamp? Why is a lamp particularly being offered? So the lamp is symbolic of the light of Krishna consciousness, the light of spiritual love. But also at the same time, when we invite somebody into one's home, for example, sometimes we may light a few candles to create a spiritual atmosphere, or to create an ambient atmosphere, rather, I should say. And similarly, because even though Krishna is within the heart, but because we've forgotten our relationship with Krishna, we're re-inviting that spiritual energy, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is a person that we can love and develop our relationship with, back into our lives. So this offering of lamps is like lighting the path way back to Krishna and inviting Krishna back into our lives.
Vrindavan changed me personally, I think, with immediate effect. For example, with that situation where I was in the crowd and couldn't move, that was an immediate lesson or realization. I think I don't appreciate Vrindavan enough. I know that I don't. I know that I don't. And I think it will be something which will hit me much later. I think it's almost kind of like planted a seed. But what I can say was there was one experience which really struck me. And it was one moment when I was in the morning program and chanting away and just having a real sense and feeling that this is who I am. That actually this is who I am. This is what I've been looking for. This is my identity. And that, Vrindavan, hit the nail on the head really in terms of finding out personal identity. I finally got a sense that this is who I am. Yeah, this is who I am. Yeah, I think it's just that. You go through life and you try different things out. You get into heavy metal for some time. You're like, oh well, this is me. This is what I'm about. Or you get into like a certain sport. You're like, oh no, this is me. Or you hang around with these types of people. You're like, this is me. Or you try different philosophies out. And, you hang around with people who are also into different types of philosophy and things like that. Or you try drugs, or you smoke, or you get into music, whatever it is. And you're always kind of, or I found I'm always trying to test myself to find out who I am. But when I got to Vrindavan, when I was chanting, I got a sense this is who I am. That I am a spirit soul, looking for my relationship with God. And in this format as well, in Krishna consciousness, it seems to be the thing that goes straight to the heart.
Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan, Govinda, Krishna, Madhava.